Hello and welcome to the first of a Unity tutorial from the Great Garbson. Today we're going to be teaching you how to make a 2D platformer, the basics, and then we'll go through the art and all the technical details. But first we're going to set up our scene and later on set up movement. So what you'll need for this tutorial is the basic version of Unity. I'm using Unity 4.0 just because it's the most recent version of Unity, but I'm sure this will work for Unity 3. Also recommended is a version of a software modeling tool like Blender or Maya or any other modeling tool of your choice that is compatible with Unity. So if you load up the scene, I already have an example scene here. This is what you're going to have hopefully by the end of this tutorial. You can have any other means of a level. This is just a basic level to show you 3 walls, and you won't need a roof for a 2D game, unless you really want one. But I'm sure the floor tutorial will help you with that. So let's start with the camera. Right now I have a perspective projection. You can have the other projection on. It will be handy if you're going to be doing pixel art, because then you're going to have cleaner art, and it's just going to look a lot better. This will be touched on a bit more when we get onto textures and art when doing a 2D platformer. But for now, I'm going to stick with a perspective projection. So here we go, and let's go on to what the rotation is. I have a 90-degree rotation on the x-axis and a 0 rotation on the y and z axes. This is so I can use the character control script I have created without any hassle with physics. You can have a top-down camera, which some people do, and I wouldn't suggest if you're beginning out, because you're going to have problems creating scripts, and you can't import any other of the pre-built Unity methods in that control movement, because you're going to have problems with physics and it's going to be a pain to control. So let's move on to the level design. I have a foreground and a midground. A background can be used, and when you're going into the polishing side of it, you will need a background to make it look good, but for now we're just going to have a foreground and midground. We have the floor here and 2 walls. The floor is a plane with a 270-degree rotation on the x-axis and no rotations on the y and z axes. This is to make it flat on the ground, and you want it in front. You want it to be pretty close to the camera. As you can see here, it's not too far away, but it isn't too close. Just so it looks in the foreground, which is pretty obvious if you know anything about cameras and camera techniques. We also have 2 walls. There are 2 ways to do this. I've gone with one with a rotation of a 90-degree angle on the y-axis and a 270-degree angle on the z-axis with no rotation on the x. Or you could do a 90-degree angle on the x-axis and a 180-degree angle on the y-axis. Again, these are both using planes. For the background, well, for the midground, I mean, it's both the same, except for the y-axis, for the ground, you're going to have to make sure that your plane's facing up, so the texture will be facing up and into the camera that I have now in my scene. Also, the walls are the same. Make sure the grey area is facing towards your player at all times, or else the collision detection will not work when we're going to the script. For the player, we have another plane. This is probably the most important part of creating the game, is the player, because if it doesn't work, then when making a platformer, your whole game will not be fun, basically. I have just got a simple plane. You have a 270-degree angle on the x-axis. This is where your modeling software will come in if you're wanting to make a proper game that will run really efficiently, because as planes aren't really meant for this kind of stuff, they do use a lot of polygons, as you can see here with the mesh If we zoom in the mesh, I think it's 10 by 10, so that can be difficult for the computer to load when using a fully rendered map. So I would recommend building these planes in your modeling software, where you have complete control over how many polygons you can use in your model. But I have not done this because this is just a basic view, and if you know anything about modeling software, then you'll probably know how to do this. That's pretty much it for the basics of your level. Moving on to the script. So we have the script. Right now we have a completed script here, which I'm going to go through with you. I have 3 float variables I have created specially for the script: a movement speed, which is under speed, a jump speed, which is called jump speed, and gravity, which is obviously controlling gravity. We have a vector2 variable, which is controlling which direction your player will be going using key presses, and character controller variable, which is going to be importing our character controller method that is pre-made in Unity, which can be seen in the start method here. Or should I say character controller class? I apologize. So here in the start method we have all the code which is going to be importing our character controller class, which is putting the character controller into our variable, which is here and here, equals get component character controller, which is the class we're going to be importing, and then an if statement just making sure it is attached to our game object. All this code can be found in the description below, that will be linked to it. And then we have our update method, which is going to another if statement, which is using a character controller method found in the character controller class, which is grounded, which means if the player is on the ground where the game object is touching a collision-based object, then we will be going into this code here, and we'll be getting the movement direction, which will be pressed by one of our keys. I've put it to the left and the right key for now, and the up and down key. Well, I haven't, and the space bar and the shift button for running and jumping. So here we have it getting the key press and translating it into the movement speed and movement direction. And then we go into another statement which I have made myself, which is going to be controlling jump and running. So in this if statement we have the jump speed, which is just a very basic jump, and a running motion, which is just right now increasing the speed from 20 to 30 for movement speed and 13 to 15 for jump speed. And then we have turning off the jumping with a get button up if statement. Finally, we have just applying this code into onto the screen, so you can actually play the game properly, and you're not just going to have the code running in the background, not doing anything on screen. This is done by the delta time, time.delta time, and right now the first thing we do is gravity, and then finally we do movement. So that's the code, and that is it for the tutorial. As you can see, if we load up our game now, and if you've done everything correctly, you shall see that we have movement. I should say that the player I may not mention this, but the player must be with the mid-ground with the mid-ground level sections. I have kept the rendering of the planes just for this tutorial, but later on we will be removing that. Our next tutorial will be focusing on textures, as in sprite sheets, and just whole materials in general. I hope to see you then. Have fun, everyone.